We are building for the long term. We're building Canada strong, not for an election cycle, but to protect Canadians. We're building for the long term.
We will make sure that nobody loses their dental care. We will also, on child care, we all believe that there should be more affordable child care in this country.
The question is if I'm assured that Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative, is not going to cut. No, he is going to cut. He voted against dental care. He voted against pharmacare.
As you can hear there, Campaign Day 3 has really delivered a lot for us to talk about. Mark Carney has an uncosted defense policy and is still on the defensive for backing out of a French language debate. Pierre Poilievre has decided to keep liberal dental care and child care agreements and is facing questions on a new report alleging India interfered in his leadership election. And Jagmeet Singh is fighting potentially disastrous public opinion polls. Plus, former Housing Minister Sean Fraser has changed his mind about leaving federal politics, announcing he will run again in Nova Scotia. It all called for nobody else but the front bench. With me tonight, former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant. He's the CEO of Space Canada. Former Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt is here. She's the Vice Chair and Managing Director of Global Investment Banking at CIBC. CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair is here, as is the Toronto Star's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Rob Benzie. Hi, everybody. Great to see you.
Hey, Bessie.
Benzie, I'll start with you because you know as well as anyone best laid plans on a campaign. Lots of substantive announcements today, but the dominating story was certainly that from the Globe around allegations that it was India that allegedly interfered in the 2022 leadership race, aiming to benefit Pierre Poilievre. He was not aware, his inner circle not aware. There's no conclusion that it impacted the race. In fact, nobody is alleging that it could have because of the decisive nature of his win. But still, that's what the question was about, and certainly a lot of fodder on the campaign trail. Your take on whether that matters in this campaign, and if so, or if not, why not?
I think it matters in the sense, Vashi, that any time you're not talking about what you want to talk about, it's probably not great on the campaign trail. Mr. Poilievre wanted to be talking about his axe the GST on houses that cost less than $1.3 million. It's a good news announcement for his party and he'd rather be talking about that than about Bob Fife and Steve Chase's story about whether the Indian government helped him win the Tory leadership. Now, I don't think he was wrong when he said this morning that he won fair and square. He won 70% of the vote. So Narendra Modi didn't swing the election, the leadership election for Mr. Poilievre, but it reminded me of why it was problematic for him not to get a security briefing. My colleague Mark Ramsey asked him about that on Sunday, and he gave a pretty glib answer, I thought, at his launch, saying how, that's a politicized process. I don't think that it is a politicized process, and stories like this are really, really damaging when you refuse to get your security briefing. When Carney it gives Carney an out on the Brookfield stuff, because he can say, yeah, I put my stuff in a blind trust, and oh, by the way, I got my security briefing, just like Pierre Poilievre hasn't.
So I want to ask you, Tom, about that, because if there's one person the Tories keep pointing me to in defense of their decision, it's you, and comments that you made, I think, to my colleague Marcia a number of months ago, kind of, understanding the posture Mr. Poilievre had taken at the time. Do you think the position is as tenable today as it was then?
I made the same comments to your colleague Todd this afternoon on CTV News Channel. I agree completely with Pierre Poilievre on this. I believe he's completely right. You do not accept to play this mugs game where you restrain your ambit and your ability to act as leader of the official opposition, which is a constitutional role to hold the government to account. And this game where you have people in the hierarchy of the security establishment saying, oh, he really should come in, but then he's not allowed to talk about it anymore. Really? Didn't we just have a commission of inquiry headed up by Madam Justice Hogue, who put all of this stuff away and said there might have been a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but all of a sudden we're talking about whether Poilievre actually got the 68%. What, maybe it was 67%? I mean, this is madness, to try to make this an issue in a campaign that is so serious for the country, to try to go back to this stuff and to try to complain about Poilievre wanting to do his constitutional duty. He wants to do his job of holding the government to account, and no, he's not going to walk into that bear trap that consists of getting a security clearance, seeing documents that could be important, and not talking about it. By the way, when I was leader of the opposition, Vashi, a certain Stephen Harper would call me personally. His staff would give me a setup called me once during a wedding reception and said, I've got to talk to you. And it was hard for himself, saying, look, there's this and this and this that's going to roll out in the next few days. It's going to be in the news. I want you to know about it. That's what a prime minister does with his or her leader of the opposition. You talk. Nobody had to make me swear any oath. I was still the leader of the opposition, but I had no intention of going in front of a camera and talking about it. This bit about Poilievre somehow not being up to snuff. When Carney went down that road today, I think he made a big mistake. He's been on the high road all along. He's got these tyros around him who keep saying, oh, use this bit of dirt, use that bit of dirt. Really? So all of a sudden, what did he get snapped right back at him by Poilievre? Oh, let's talk about when you were in Peking, at Beijing, talking with the Chinese Communist Party, borrowing hundreds of millions of dollars for your private company. It has nothing to do with this campaign any more than the bit about supposed Indian government interference. It's the tricks that they use on each other. What the Liberals learned today is that Poilievre's very good at this game, and they better choose their subject a little bit more carefully next time, because they didn't score any points today, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, let me ask from a political perspective, because Lisa's nodding, so I think she agrees with the substance of what you're saying. Is there a way for Poilievre to take that posture on taking the actual briefing, but also express desire to know if there was rot in the leadership process, if there are foreign agents working against, you know, the interests of Canadians in that leadership phase? Like, could he acknowledge it and say, I would like to get to the bottom of it, just not vis-a-vis the way that the government has spelled out?
Is that for me or for Tom?
That's for Lisa. For Lisa.
He did that, and he did that by using a convention that a lot of leaders do, which is your chief of staff is briefed. Ian Todd had the information. He understood, he knows, he saw the documents. And as a result, you rely upon your chief of staff to make sure that they tell the boss what needs to be told, and they can keep their eyes and ears on what's important. Clearly, that's what happened in this case. I agree with what Tom said. I don't think I could say it any better, but I would lean on one point in particular. Is this really what we're going to discuss at this point in time? Greg Lyle just told us that if these tariffs go in place, there are going to be people unemployed on April 28th. Isn't that the discussion we should be having in the country? And if these parties are going to continue to snipe at each other about trying to throw dirt on who is closer to India or who is closer to China, no one is anything but patriotic in this race. Everybody loves our country. We will fight for our country. And we're sniping at each other on something that honestly is so ridiculous. They should really focus on what matters to Canadians, and that's our safety and our prosperity going forward.
My guess about why this becomes something to talk about is because, Brian, it is, you know, on either side going to be leading to questions around leadership. And when you are this close in the polls, and a lot of the policies you're proposing are not as discernibly different as they might have been 2 or 3 years ago, politicians or their operatives are going to use this to inform a view of leadership. Is my guess is why I understand Lisa's point that there's a lot of heavy stuff going down, but why this stuff is also, you know, dominating some discussion today.
Yeah, for sure. I have so much to say. I think such great contributions by all three. I think Benzie's point is a really good one. While I was watching the sort of the clips that set up our talk here, I was literally thinking to myself, none of them are getting through with the message they proactively wanted to, and Benzie pointed that out, so I couldn't agree more. And on this topic, certainly that's the case for Poilievre, but to some extent it's the case for Carney as well. I mean, we're talking about this, and look, I think Tom's right in the sense that I don't believe it's any sort of big issue. Politically speaking, it might have been a net neutral, net gain, maybe even, if Poilievre would have gotten the clearance, just from a political point of view. But I do agree with Tom in the sense that, look, this was set up with the idea that come see what really happened or what we've been told, and then you'll basically stop criticizing, or you'll almost have to, because you'll have that information, right? So it definitely was set up with that frame to be fair to Poilievre and the Conservatives. But at the same time, he easily could have said, okay, fine, I only want to know, you know, this little section of what's going on because that would be what's relevant to me, or whatever. I mean, there could have been a way perhaps for him to be able to sort of get this out of the window so they can't use it. And to Lisa's point, I mean, I agree. Listen, this is not sort of what I think is top of mind for Canadians right now. It's important. Interference was a story that lasted a long time because it's important as well. But this particular chapter, I don't think is quite important, or not comparable to what we should be focused on. But to be fair, again, look, at the same time, you can say the exact same thing about Carney and his assets. I mean, is that really the guy followed the rules? Is that really what should be thrown at him, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, right? So look, I think, to your preamble, they're going to throw stuff like this at each other, yes, for leadership, but also, going back to Rob's point, probably just so the cycle isn't a great cycle for the other party, right? I think it's also a little bit of that going on, just try to thwart and mitigate any proactive message the other side might have on a given day.
Okay, the cycle continues here.